She won't say it out loud, but she's waiting for you to understand this. Not flowers, not long texts, not trying to prove how good you are. One feeling: when you give her this, she'll think about you when she wakes up and right before she sleeps. She'll imagine you walking through the door, hoping it's you every time her phone lights up. This one shift doesn't make her like you. It makes her obsess, because it hits her deeper than logic, status, or looks ever could. And the man who learns to control this controls the relationship. You've done everything they told you. You've been kind, supportive, available. You responded to her texts instantly. You gave her your heart like it was the only thing you had, and she left, or worse, stayed bored, uninterested, uninvested. You sat there wondering, what did I do wrong? You did what you thought was right, but what you were missing is something men were never taught. Not in school, not by your father, not by society, but it's the one thing she's craving. Every woman, everywhere, she wants to feel it, that energy, that gravity around you, that quiet confidence, that untouchable core. And if you've ever wondered why some men, even average ones, have women locked in emotionally, it's because they've tapped into this principle. There's a way to master it. And now it's finally available. It's called the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, the best ebook ever written for men who want real power in modern relationships. You'll learn how to be unshakable, how to speak without speaking, how to walk into a room and shift energy without saying a word. This blueprint shows you how to build a life that makes her crave your presence, respect your space, and chase your commitment. No distractions, no confusion, just straight mastery over the emotional dynamics every man must understand. Get it now, while you still can. Today, I'm going to give it to you raw, and by the end of this video, you'll walk different, think different, feel different. Because once you embody what I'm about to teach you, your life will change forever. And listen closely, because this knowledge was never meant for the masses. The ebook that reveals it all is now available to the public, but it won't stay up for long. To preserve its power and integrity, access will be pulled soon. Right now, you still have a chance, but time is running out. Support this channel to keep these truths alive. Make sure more men get access before it's buried. Comment, control the feeling below if you're ready. Number 1. Be the mystery she can't solve. There is something unexplainably powerful about a man she cannot fully understand. A man who stands in front of her with calm in his eyes and weight behind his presence. Not because he is pretending to be someone, but because he knows who he is so deeply that she feels the walls she usually keeps up melt without even trying. And this is where the game changes, because women are not drawn to the man who lays himself bare the moment they smile. They are pulled into orbit by the one they can't define, the one who carries himself with such depth, such emotional control, such layers of experience and quiet discipline that her mind begins to search for the answers he's not giving her. And this is not manipulation. This is nature. This is what happens when you stop trying to be liked and start becoming a man of substance, because women respect men who respect their own energy. And when you stop volunteering your life story, when you stop filling every gap with meaningless words, when you let her sit with the unknown instead of comforting her with constant explanation, she feels that gap and wants to fill it. And this emotional pull is ancient. It is primal. And when you become the man who does not fold under pressure, who does not answer every question, who is not eager to prove his value, but stands as if his value is self-evident, then everything shifts in her perception, because now you are not entertainment. You are not a toy. You are not another forgettable scroll in her feed. You become a question she can't stop asking herself, even when you're not there. And while other men beg for attention, send good morning texts and over-explain their plans, you go about your day, structured, grounded, focused, and she feels that lack of access like a vacuum that keeps calling her back. And this feeling grows not because of what you say, but because of what you choose not to say. And the message is clear. You are not for everyone. You are not available on demand. And you will not be another man who trades his standards for a few moments of female validation. And she may act indifferent. She may test you, push you, try to provoke a response. But your stillness, your depth, your discipline remain. And in her mind, a story begins to unfold where you are the one who doesn't need her, yet somehow still wants her. And that paradox makes her restless, makes her chase, makes her question why she keeps thinking about you at night when you said almost nothing. And this is the man she brags about to her friends but can't quite explain, because you didn't win her over with noise. You haunted her thoughts with your absence, your strength, your silence. And in a world full of men who try too hard, your mystery becomes the loudest thing she hears, echoing in the places she thought no man could ever reach. Number 2. Your peace is her obsession. She has met 1,000 men who chase her, who text her constantly, who need to be needed, who fold the moment she acts cold. But she has never truly forgotten the one who didn't flinch, the one who stood like a mountain when she tried to provoke an earthquake, because in that moment she felt something rare, something that all her filters, her beauty, her clever replies could not touch. And it shook her because she realized that her usual games, her withdrawal, her threats of leaving meant nothing to him, not because he didn't care, but because he had already built a world so whole, so fulfilling, so deeply rooted in his own path, that her presence was never required to validate it. And this is the kind of peace that terrifies and seduces a woman at the same time, because she lives in a world of men who orbit her. But this man has gravity of his own, and when she feels that she cannot disrupt his calm, that she cannot control his emotional state with her mood swings or silence or hot and cold behavior, she feels both afraid and intrigued. And that paradox becomes the drug, because her mind is wired to chase meaning and closure and validation, and yet you give her none of those, not to punish her, but because you've evolved past the point of emotional dependency, because you have faced solitude and walked through pain and rebuilt yourself in the quiet without needing anyone's approval. And when she enters your world, a world of order, of intention, of mission-driven behavior, she realizes she is not the center of it. And that is what pulls her closer, because unlike the men who made her feel adored, you make her feel something far more addictive, safe and challenged and unable to predict you, and she'll tell herself stories. She'll try to figure you out. She'll escalate the tests, not because she wants to break you, but because she needs to see if the peace you carry is real or performance. And when you continue to lead, to build, to stay rooted regardless of her storms, she starts to lower her defenses, not out of submission, but out of awe, because the man who doesn't need her becomes the man she cannot stop desiring, and it all comes back to peace, not passive, not boring, not empty, but the kind of peace that radiates from a man who has seen enough chaos to no longer be moved by it. And that peace becomes her obsession, because it's the only thing she can't shake, the only thing that makes her feel seen, not because you study her, but because your stillness forces her to study herself in your presence. And the more time she spends in your world, the more she realizes that what she thought she wanted, a man who listens and validates, is nothing compared to the man who doesn't flinch when she threatens to leave, doesn't beg when she pulls away, and doesn't collapse when she goes quiet. And in a world of noise and insecurity, that kind of peace is unforgettable, unshakable, and completely irresistible. Number 3, let her chase your silence. It always starts the same way. She notices you, studies you, tries to understand you, But something about you doesn't respond the way she expects. Something in your presence doesn't ask for her time, doesn't beg for her notice, doesn't react with boyish excitement the second she gives you attention, and that unfamiliar resistance begins to chip away at her confidence because she's used to being pursued. She's used to being entertained. She's used to men handing her their presents like candy, hoping to be seen, hoping to be picked. And yet you remain consistent, you remain still, you remain untouched by the theatrics of attraction, and it triggers a feeling inside her she's rarely forced to face. A hunger to earn what is not easily given. Because when a man withholds his emotional availability, not out of bitterness, but out of discipline, out of self-awareness, out of earned strength, it disrupts everything she thought she understood about men, and now she finds herself wanting to prove something, not to him, but to herself. Because if she can get him to break, to chase, to show weakness, it validates her power. And when he doesn't, when he continues to lead his life with direction, to give without attachment, to engage without dependence, she finds herself spiraling, rereading his last message, questioning her words, replaying the last moment his eyes locked with hers. And this is where desire begins, not in the flood of affection, but in the drought of certainty, because when she doesn't know where she stands, she leans in further, she tries harder, and this is not a game, it's a test of discipline, because the world has told her she's the prize, that any man who doesn't fall to her charm is wrong or broken. But deep down she knows the truth. She knows that a man who can look at her beauty and not lose his frame is a man who has seen better, who has experienced more, who does not need novelty to feel alive, and that scares her and excites her and draws her in like gravity. And no matter how much she tells herself she's unbothered, no matter how loudly she laughs in front of others, or how coldly she replies, when she's alone, she thinks about you. Not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. Not because you chased her, but because you didn't flinch when she pulled away. And in a world of eager men who act like boys, you became the one she studies, the one she tries to decode, the one who reminds her that presence is not volume, that power is not noise, and that the man who gives the least away is the one who takes up the most space in her mind. And it's in that void that her obsession grows, because the more she tries to pull you in, the more she realizes that your world does not bend for anyone, and suddenly the game has changed. She's no longer deciding if you're good enough for her, she's wondering if she's good enough for you. Number 4. Emotionally unavailable equals irresistible. There is a strange truth that no one wants to admit, not society, not your friends, not even the women who fall deepest into its grip. And it's this: women are most drawn to the men they can't emotionally unlock, the ones who are there but untouched, who can touch her body but protect their soul, who give presence without handing over power. And this is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is the refusal to hand over your life story to someone who hasn't shown she's worthy to hear it. Because in a world where most men rush to spill their emotions in hopes of appearing deep, the man who measures his energy, who observes before he speaks, who listens more than he reveals, becomes something rare. And that rarity creates a hunger in her that she can't quite explain, because she's met vulnerability packaged as neediness. She's seen open men who were just desperate to be accepted, and she's felt the weight of their expectation press against her like a debt she never asked for. But when she stands across from you, when she realizes that your attention is earned, not granted, when your emotions come in measured doses, not in floods of overexposure, she feels a respect growing for you that she's not used to feeling, because now she's not dealing with a man looking to be saved. She's facing a man who has already saved himself, who has already stared into the void of loneliness and rebuilt without applause. And that makes every small glimpse into your inner world feel like a gift, not a transaction. And it shifts the power from her hands into yours, not because you're trying to dominate her, but because she recognizes that you are no longer seduced by surface-level beauty or validation. And in a world where every man is performing for women's approval, your refusal to participate becomes its own gravitational force, because you don't overshare, you don't overpromise, you don't pretend, and that honesty, however raw, however limited, makes her want to earn more of it, because every layer you reveal becomes more valuable when she realizes how few people get to see it. And now she's not chasing a relationship, she's chasing access, emotional access, spiritual access, a place inside you that she knows not everyone can reach. And this is what women don't tell you. They want to earn their place. They want to feel chosen, not by a man who needs them to fill a void, but by a man who chooses them even though he doesn't need them. And when you become that man, when your emotional restraint is not a wall, but a filter, when you guard your heart not with fear, but with purpose, you become unforgettable, not because you gave her everything, but because you gave her very little, and she worked for every piece of it. Number 5. Detach from outcome. The moment she can sense that you care more about where it's going than who you are while you're in it, the moment she knows you've handed her the power to validate your worth, to shape your sense of certainty, that's when the dynamic crumbles, because now you are no longer the man she admired. You're the one waiting for a result, hoping for her approval, and nothing kills attraction faster than a man who needs a woman to define the quality of his life. And this is the trap most men fall into without realizing it. They get one good date, one positive signal, and already they're visualizing the future, imagining the titles, forecasting the feelings, planning the script of a relationship that hasn't even been written yet. And that emotional investment turns into attachment, and attachment breeds anxiety, and anxiety leaks through your words, your body, your decisions, until she feels it and pulls back, not because she's cruel, but because you gave her the power to validate you before she even had the time to earn your vulnerability. And this is the danger of needing something to work, because when you need it, you start to bend, you start to compromise, you start to say yes when your soul screams no. You start to adjust your opinions to match hers. You start to withhold truth to keep the connection alive. And what began as masculine confidence quickly turns into emotional dependency dressed as romantic intent. And that dependency makes you fragile, because now every response, every text, every delay becomes a test of your self-worth. And it's not that she's trying to hurt you, it's that she's observing you. She's watching to see if the man who said he had purpose will crumble the second she gets quiet. And most do. Most fall apart the moment they sense withdrawal. And that's why detachment is not a luxury. It's a necessity, because the man who does not need the outcome is the man who always holds the frame, the man who is already complete, already grounded, already fulfilled, who can enjoy a woman but never worship her, who can walk away even when his emotions beg him to stay, who understands that peace is not found in her reactions but in his alignment. And this kind of man doesn't beg for clarity, doesn't fear rejection, doesn't twist himself to be liked. He simply shows up as he is, gives what is earned, and walks away when the energy is not right, not out of spite, but out of respect for his standards. And that calm detachment becomes intoxicating, because now she's the one evaluating herself, wondering why your energy isn't chasing her like the others, why your presence doesn't crumble under pressure. And that space, that lack of desperation, that silent confidence, it draws her in like gravity, because she realizes that she's dealing with a man who has nothing to prove and everything to offer. And that man becomes unforgettable, not because he tried to keep her, but because he knew he didn't have to. Number 6, don't react, respond. Every time you lose your frame because of her tone, her emotional swings, her testing behavior, her baiting questions, her passive-aggressive silences, You prove to her that you are still reacting like a boy looking for maternal approval, rather than responding like a man who has already outgrown the need to be understood by someone who isn't even sure what she wants. And when you react, when you explain too much, when you plead your case like you're on trial for being emotionally available, she sees you not as a leader, but as a follower of her moods. And the tragedy is that most men have never been taught this. They've been told that reacting shows you care, that immediate emotional expression is a sign of love. But in reality, it often reveals insecurity. It shows a lack of emotional grounding, a lack of self-mastery, and this is where attraction dies. Because a woman can only trust a man she cannot shake, and if every time she throws emotional bait your way you bite with desperation, she loses respect before she loses interest. Because what she really wants, even if she doesn't say it out loud, is a man who won't collapse when things get tense, who won't raise his voice when she raises hers, who won't explain himself every time she throws shade. And this is the essence of Stoic power. Not that you feel nothing, but that you choose your words like a warrior chooses his battles. Not everything deserves a response. Not every mood requires correction. Not every emotional wave deserves your energy. And when you embody that kind of restraint, that kind of poise, she may push harder at first. She may act louder, colder, more distant. But it's only because she's trying to test the edge of your control. And if you can hold that line, if you can sit in tension without flinching, if you can speak from calm when the room is shaking, then something happens inside her that she can't quite explain. She starts to feel safe, not in your softness, but in your strength. And this safety turns into attraction, and attraction turns into loyalty. Not because you gave her everything she asked for, but because you showed her that you are not led by emotion. You are guided by principle, and this is rare because most men try to fix every issue, smooth every edge, calm every mood. But the man who lets her feel the consequences of her behavior, who doesn't jump to rescue her from her own patterns, who leads without controlling, that man becomes the one she trusts, the one she respects, the one she won't forget, because he responded, not reacted. And that response was not about pleasing her, it was about honoring himself. Number 7, make her earn your attention. The biggest mistake men make is believing their attention has no value, that because she's beautiful or gave them a minute of her time, she now deserves the full extent of their energy, validation, conversation, effort, presence. And this belief destroys not only the dynamic, it destroys the man himself, because every time you pour your attention into a woman who hasn't earned it, you drain the very currency that gives you power in the first place. And she feels that not as love, not as connection, but as weakness. Because no matter what anyone says, women do not respect what comes too easily, what flows too fast, what isn't earned with presence, consistency, and character. And when you give your attention to a woman who hasn't proven she's worth it, she doesn't value it. She exploits it, even unintentionally, because now she sees you not as a challenge, but as a convenience. And the man who is always there, always replying, always initiating, always complimenting, becomes background noise to a woman who is used to being worshipped. And this is the tragic truth no one wants to say aloud. Your attention only has value when it's rare, when it's disciplined, when it's earned, and you earn that by making her show up, not with words, but with behavior, by observing how she speaks to you in private, how she respects your time, how she handles conflict, how she supports your purpose. And until those things are clear, your attention should be guarded like a king guards his throne, not because you're better than her, but because your energy is sacred, and any woman who thinks she deserves access without investment is already showing you who she is. And in that moment, your choice is clear. You either teach her that your time is cheap, or you show her that being in your world is a privilege, not a default. And the man who knows this becomes unforgettable, not because he tries to be, but because he lives with a standard so high that only the best parts of her rise to meet it. And when you live that way, when you protect your attention like your legacy depends on it, because it does, then you'll no longer have to chase, explain, beg, or convince, because now she's the one who's thinking about how to earn more of you. And that's where the game truly changes. Number 8. You are the prize. Act like it. Most men have been lied to from the moment they were old enough to fall in love. They were told that the way to win a woman is to chase her, impress her, prove themselves, always initiate, always text first, always be available. And this conditioning has turned too many powerful men into beggars who treat female attention like oxygen. And the tragedy is, the more you chase, the more she runs. Not because she doesn't want connection, but because deep down, she doesn't trust the man who needs her more than he needs his own peace. And this is the reversal most men never wake up to. That the most attractive man in the room is not the one doing the most, but the one who needs the least, who offers value and presence and clarity, but with no desperation, because he knows that he is the prize, and that knowing changes everything. It changes how you walk, how you speak, how you choose, because now you're not looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone who is worthy of access to the world you've already built. And this mindset doesn't come from arrogance. It comes from war, from pain, from being broken, from rising, from rebuilding your identity without applause, from mastering your own validation. And when you've done that, when you've faced yourself in the dark, no woman, no matter how beautiful, can shake you from your values. And that stability, that clarity, that quiet power becomes the thing she can't stop thinking about. Because now you're no longer seeking to be picked, you're choosing, and that choice is powerful because it's rare, because it's earned, because it's not moved by lust or fantasy, but by values and vision and purpose. And this is where most men fail. They think being the prize means being cocky, being loud, being detached, but it means being whole, being grounded, being unshakable. And when you live like this, when you carry yourself like a man who has something to lose, she feels it in the way you look at her, in the way you respond, in the way you walk away without flinching when the energy isn't right. And now she's not just attracted, she's intrigued, she's pulled in, because she senses she can't manipulate her way into your world. She has to rise to meet you there. And once you understand this, once you live from this truth, you'll stop settling for being chosen, because now you know you are the prize. And the prize does not chase, it attracts. If you're tired of playing a game you were never meant to lose, if you're done handing your soul to women who didn't even earn your attention, if you're sick of waking up asking yourself what went wrong, then understand this. You were never the problem, you were just never given the blueprint. The Stoic relationship blueprint isn't just a book, it's the weapon they hoped you'd never find. The system that takes everything you've been through and turns it into unshakable strength. It will show you how to think, move, speak, and lead. Not as a man hoping to be loved, but as a man who is already chosen by purpose. Every insight in this video came from that ebook, and it's linked in the comments right now, but it won't stay public forever. The men who hesitate will keep chasing. The men who act will be chased. So if you're ready to reclaim your power, to live with clarity, to stop being the entertainment and start being the prize, then do this right now. Comment the Stoic Blueprint if you're ready to step into a version of yourself you were born to be. Like this video, subscribe, and help more men find these truths before they lose years to lies.